Shalom. Welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Delmar Chabad Center, and today we have a very special guest with us today, Lieutenant Colonel, retired, Haim Ben-Eliezer. Welcome, Shalom. I could speak a little Hebrew. Shalom Aleichem, Haim, if I might call you Haim.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to introduce you as a Lieutenant Colonel, but as retired, and we'll get to that as 25 years in the Israeli Army. But you are a Sabra, that means that someone who was born in Israel, living now in the capital district in business. We'd like to, first of all, tell us about what does it mean to grow up and being raised in the state of Israel?
Well, I was born in Israel, and I did the most of my life through Ort. It's an industrial school. And from that, I decided to go to military school.
This ORT, I mean, it's a big organization. May I interject into the, I mean, many times Jewish organizations, ORT is a vocational school, and these schools are provided with money from American funds. So just people want to know sometimes what where their dollars are going, that they do help people out.
Yeah, it's a kind of school that you actually learn the high school. And I learned mechanics.
Trade
yeah.
school.
And after a while, I decided to move to a military school. Actually, my father was a civilian, worked many years in the army, so maybe that's one of the things that pushed me to go.
Make a career out of the army.
Yeah, so I went to a military school.
That's for high school?
Yeah,
yeah.
It was like a continuing of my studying. And when I finished the school, I started at the age of 17 and a half, a little bit earlier.
Because they draft. What age is the draft in Israel? Again, if people don't know, there is a draft for men and women in Israel, but that's a little...
Yeah, the age actually is 18. At 18, you go to service for 3 years men, and for 2 years girls. But that's mandatory. Well, because I started my career at military school, I started my career actually earlier as a soldier, and already when the 6 days war started, 67, I was already about a month a soldier.
Really?
Yeah. And I was a tank mechanic. I was fixing the Sherman tank. After a while, I decided that I must do something better than that, and decided to go to officer courses. And that's what happened. At the age of 19, I was an officer already. And that's the way, actually, I started my career in the army. And I went through the first grade till lieutenant colonel in the army. I made so many different kinds of duties through ordnance duties on brigades. And
so you must have fought in the Yom Kippur War, which was in 73 already.
Oh, Yom Kippur War, I was a captain already at 73. And my job was, I was a commandant of a garage. When I say garage, I mean it's not a garage in the sense that we know. It was about 150 soldiers, like equal to employees. And I was taking care of big trucks. And my unit was in Sinai, in a place called Bir Gavgafa. And that actually is the first time the war started. An Egyptian airplane tried to attack our base, because on my base was parking about 400 trucks that supposed to bring to the army in the front all the supplies. And their planes was to attack first the trucks and the food. That way they cannot, the soldier in the front will not have the supplies, and actually they can win this way the war. And the first attack was on my base. They didn't hit.
Yeah, to destroy the supply lines.
Yeah.
Why didn't they hit?
Because they were so good.
Really?
Actually, it was, I can remember the Egyptian aeroplane coming down on my base, and we could look at it. Actually, in the very beginning, we saw that it's like one of our airplanes trying to train, exercise something. But very fast we figure out that it's an Egyptian airplane, and we start running to shelters. Actually, that's the beginning of this war, and well, the end of it, all of us know, but of course we won this war.
And the Israelis took a lot of casualties, though.
Yeah. I think that it was the worst war we passed in all the war we had. And at the end, we took over the places again, and we continue over the Suez Canal, and we advance, and we stop somewhere on the 101 kilometers, where the United Nations stopped our forces, and Henry Kissinger actually was the person that negotiated between the Egyptians and the Israelis to stop the war in this line and to try to do something about that. Actually, this was the end of this war. I continued to sit there about 3 or 4 months.
Right on the Suez Canal.
After the Suez Canal, it was a city called Faid. And after that, we came back to Sinai, and that I finished my duty and continued to some other duties I got. And this was the end. And through that, I went to some other job. To a brigade, I was responsible of ordnance of a brigade, infantry brigade. And that catched me. I was in a kibbutz. I lived in a kibbutz, I remember, many years. So actually this war, it catched me in Lebanon. And I was responsible ordnance on a brigade, infantry brigade. And I've been in Lebanon about a year almost, back and forth. This was a completely different kind of war in Lebanon.
It was more of a terrorist war. I mean, it wasn't like,
well,
it's a different terrain, different. One's the desert and one's the
the very beginning
trees.
of the purpose of this war, the original plan was to push the terrorists, the PLO terrorists, back, because they was always bombing our cities in Israel, like Kiryat Shmone, all the kibbutzim near the north border. And Ariel Sharon, that was then the Minister of Defense, he decided to do something to progress only 40 kilometers into Lebanon and to push the PLO back. That way they will not be able to attack our sites with bombs. But from 40 kilometers became 50 and 60 and much more when it took over Lebanon and Beirut and over Beirut. And I found myself sitting on the road between Beirut and Damascus in Syria. This was a line where I actually stopped. And this road took till Beirut. And this, of course, was not the original plans, but that actually what happened. And after this war, I had some more relaxed jobs for a couple of years. And then when I became a lieutenant colonel, actually that was before I retired from the Israeli army, I was commander of the Jerusalem Brigade. The Jerusalem Brigade, the original Jerusalem Brigade, on 48, Jerusalem was a big brigade when just the country became a state.
Yeah, what was their job for the 6-Day War to take over Jerusalem?
Right.
They were planning to do that.
Yeah, that was a very famous brigade. And still there was connection between the original brigade and the same brigade I was. So we always was responsible of the life in Jerusalem during the war. For example, the Desert War, when it was, we took part of dividing to the civilians the gas masks, which we had to give to all the people who lived in Jerusalem and around Jerusalem, even the Arab sites in Jerusalem, to give all of them masks, gas masks. And it was funny, that we have to give to Arabs. There is an Arab village around Jerusalem that we was responsible on them also. And we had to go to these people to teach them how to wear the mask, how to use them, and to give them like every other civilian. Anyway, that was one of our responsibilities. Above all of that, of course, we have to take care of the front, which it was in front of Jerusalem, cross Jordan and Iraq after that. So that was our main responsibility in the war. It was very interesting job, the last one. And one thing that I will never forget, it was my responsibility to make the ceremony of the memorial, actually the Memorial Day, the soldiers that died in the war. Before the Independence Day, there is always a Memorial Day. So this ceremony...
Also, I may add that it's a very somber day. It's serious. America wears a Memorial Day at the end of May, but it's more like people know to go out on a picnic, or that they don't really there's a few parades, but they really people don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
And what happens really in Israel is a very somber, serious day, because like you yourself participate, people are all in the army and they know relatives who got killed in wars.
Yeah, so
it's more hitting home.
Actually, what happened a day before the Independent Days, before we start celebrating the Independent Days, there is a Memorial Day, very sad day, that all the country have to remember the people, the soldier who died in the war. This ceremony is usually at the Wailing Wall, and the President of Israel taking part, and Knesset members, which is the Israeli parliament, taking part of this ceremony, was something that I always remember very, very emotional, you know. So then I have the chance, it came my time to retire. You can retire from the Israeli army after 20 years of service, or after the age of 40. So it came together, the age and the years, and I decided to retire because also it came together my possibility to come here. And I decided to come to the United States to try. I had to start anyway a new career. And I have the possibility to come here. Actually, we have family here. My wife's sister is an American citizen for many years. So we want to be together a little bit and to try. And that I'm here now.
See how it'll go.
Yeah.
Well, it's just interesting now that, of course, you have been in the Hebrew word for army, it's tzava. You were in the army for a number of years, and, of course, a citizen and brought up there. One little interesting thing, people don't understand the kibbutz life, and maybe you did say you went from Tel Aviv to kibbutz. Kibbutz is very much more of a communal life that everybody really, socialist, if you might say, that everybody just works together and the pay is very minimal, very small, and everybody just works together for the community. And there's really only, I think, a few % of Israelis on communal. It's very much more farming communities. And we always hear, at least in the Jewish newspapers, that people, once they go into tzava, they go into the big cities, they kind of never come back. And you were just the opposite, and like to understand, maybe explain to our viewers what life in this kibbutz and what it had in it that you wanted to leave Tel Aviv, which you came from the big city, and in your life you settled into kibbutz.
Well, I always like to see what kibbutz life means. We knew a lot about kibbutz from stories, of course. We never lived there. But always when I was visiting kibbutz, it looks very nice. Green, quiet, flowers, trees all over. People very calm, you know. Nice life. So I said, why don't I try it? So I had the chance and I came to kibbutz, became a member. First of all, a kibbutz, it's really nice life. About 3% of the Israeli citizens live in a kibbutzim. Not so much, but still, there are people who live. It's such a life, actually. You are working, you don't get paid for what you're doing. You have some budget, not really money, some budget, and every kibbutz has a little store that you can buy some needs, like chocolate for the kids, some toys that your kid really want. You have a birthday to your wife, you went to buy something from that store. So little needs. Actually, we get what you need in the kibbutz. There is a dining room, for all the people living in the kibbutz. Kibbutz is the average kibbutz about 250 people, children and men and adults. And you eat in the kibbutz in that dining room, all the meals. You have like all the entertainment is for all the people in the kibbutz. Very, very organized schedule for the day. Okay.
So it sounds like camp over here, like going to camp.
It sounds like a camp, but you know when you
hard
start.
work though. It's
People work very hard. In the kibbutz I lived, we had a lot of agricultures in the fields, like farmers. We have a factory. I actually worked in the factory in the kibbutz. And cows, chickens, everything that the farmers should have. And very hard working, very hard. Because, you know, the money, the kibbutz, it's like I would say, a big factory. And the money that you do, it's for your house. Okay, you don't put in your pocket anything. There is a counter person, there is a head of kibbutz, there is a management of the kibbutz, and you go to work wherever they need you. In the dining room, you have to work to send kitchen to the market. Everybody is doing that in his turn. So it sounds nice. But not all the people can live in this kind of life. For example, I don't know if an American, actually I have a friend, that this is the reason I came here, that lived with me in the kibbutz for 12 years about. He is an American from Albany. And he left the kibbutz and he came back. It's very hard for an American to become a kibbutznik, because you used to go to your car and go to whatever. And
do what you
want. You're not allowed in kibbutz to have a car. For example, you want to visit your parents in Tel Aviv, you have to order a car 2 or 3 weeks in advance. And sometimes you have a car, sometimes not. And
that's difficult. But it could be very rewarding if a person wants to join in and make something of it and pioneer. Let me go on to one. We have a few minutes left, and since you were part of the Israeli security forces, I mean, many times I talk to, Jewish people in the community, and I ask, we talk about Israel, are you going there to visit? And they tell me, no, Rabbi, it's very dangerous there. Don't you ever see the reports on the news and in the newspapers, people getting killed and stabbed all the time? And I'd like to have your input or your opinion in this, your assurances to the viewers that would like to maybe visit Israel.
Well, I can say very clearly, Israel is a safe place to live, even if people are afraid. I don't know if you will go to England if you hear so many terrorists that bombs all over. Israel is a safe place to live. And the security and the army are doing a wonderful job. You don't have to go to in Arab sites. It's danger. But you can go at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning in Tel Aviv, in Yafo, in Haifa, whenever you want, in Jerusalem. Nothing can happen to you. It's very, very secure. I am very mad on the media. The media usually try to show the bad things anywhere. And if you hear so many cases happened, you never ask where. Most of the things happened in the occupied territory, is what they called, in Gaza. But in Israel, it is a good place to live, I think. It's a nice place and very secure. And I recommend everybody who has the possibility to go with not any fear, the opposite. And another thing is that all the organizations, I mean the terrorist organization, that was a try to do as much as possible to put fear in people not to go in Israel because it's not secure. Actually, I was raised there, and in Israeli, I was never afraid to go anywhere. And I think that a lot go to Caesar. Okay, I like personally to see in my eyes things that I read in the Bible, for example. Okay, for example, if you read about Joshua,
in Hebrew, in English, it's Joshua.
Joshua and the wall.
Jericho and
Jericho. And you go to Jericho and you see exactly what you read in the book. Exactly. I mean, exactly. That's amazing. That's proof not only what you read and you have to believe, it's proof that you
living
see.
History. Well, it's unfortunate. It's interesting to note in tourism that the majority of tourists that come to Israel are non-Jewish, because the Christians also, they read the Bible, and like you say, I mean, the Bible's open to any person, and they want to see what the Holy Land, which it is a holy land to all the three major faiths, they want to see it. So surely for the Jewish people, that such a place where they're speaking Hebrew and it's a Jewish life, that there really should be a shot in the arm, so to speak, that they really feel that enthusiasm as a Jewish person, that this is their homeland, that their forefathers were yearned to see. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I think it's an important thing. And listen, you go to New York City also. I mean, are you so safe there? And people get mugged anywhere. It's just like people have to overcome like the thrills of the media, I think, to trying to key in on the problems instead of saying the good things. Which maybe is the same thing you can say about American life also. That the bad, unfortunate case always hits the headlines, and people living peacefully and having a nice day, you'll never read that anywhere, and it's surely not going to be part of the headlines.
I don't know how many people will be brave enough to go in New York City at 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's important. Let me ask you again, and I think it's important for our viewers, and just the way I'm looking at it. I mean, a first-hand look, we can have someone who just visited and they have their opinion, and sometimes we have that opinion also. A tourist comes back, I mean, you were harmed, and they, of course, say no, they had a beautiful time. But as part of the security forces, and you were a high officer, lieutenant colonel of security, what do you say about the peace efforts, which, of course, are... Sometimes they fade into the news, depends what's in the headlines, but it seems to always rear its head about the possibilities for peace in Israel with the Arab states around them. Do you have any personal observations, if not professional observations?
Well, I have my own opinion, of course, about that. I think that obviously there is a problem around with PLO, with the Arab leaves around Israel, you know, in the West Bank, and something has to be done. Okay. We must do something to make our life more peaceful. And I think now, with the new government, maybe they will be more open to listen, to talk. I don't know if they will find a solution. I also don't know what the solution, if we'll find a good solution or a bad one. But I'm sure that to find any solution, you must listen and to talk, to sit down and talk. You cannot hide and say, no, I don't want to talk anything and I want to be peace. You must talk and listen to people. And I hope, and I really think that we need peace in the area. For a fact, we have peace with Egypt, not the peace that I was expected, but still peace. Soldier wasn't killed in this border. And it's a kind of peace. Everybody's keeping this peace. And if we can continue this peace with our other neighbors, we can improve our life a lot, and that we have to go for. You know. But always we have to remember the main issue is the security. Any kind of peace, if it will be, whatever it will be, we have to consider the security of the people as issue number one. And any compromise will be done. This will be the first thing we have to take care. Okay? We cannot take any chances. No chances. If we fail in the chance, we'll find ourselves somewhere else. So the very secure, that will be the solution, if they will find any. I don't know.
It's just a very difficult situation, to say the least. But like you say, I mean, from an officer in the Army, I think that's really it. I mean, you can always, it's easy to tell some people to, you know, compromise, but, you know, the soldiers on the front line are going to feel the first brunt of any problems over there, what it feels to march around in Lebanon like you were there, and understand that certain people, you know, if it's It's on your doorstep, you see, in Yiddish, right? It's not an easy thing. For someone else, it's easy to tell someone else what to do.
Right.
So to say you compromise and you give up, and you're across the ocean where America doesn't have any, neighbors that are trying to conquer. We're near the Canadian border, and it's a free zone, and everybody can just cross, and there's no armies. It's not that way with it. We saw with Iraq. I mean, even the neighbors are not even real neighbors. They're 1,000 miles away, and they still decide to hurt Israel. So I think that's number one that people have to recognize. You're right, that security and being safe is the number one. And if people want to sit down and be peaceful, I don't think anybody in the world is against peace, especially in the Israel state. If they would just sit down and saying, you have this, I have this, and let's get along with each other. And it's always the shame of it. If there'd be peace, people would be better off than using their money and for army and military and having people killed. It would be a better world. But maybe they're learning from Russia. People are saying that it's time not to wasting your money, wasting your time to make war with everybody. Maybe it'll filter down to the Middle East, and people also say, maybe it's a waste of time to.
The main point, if there will be any peace in Israel, is affect immediate economic situation. As you know, every person in Israel have to be in reserve to the age of 55. And it doesn't matter what kind of business you are doing, you have to leave your business and to go to service for at least 30 days a year. So you have to leave your business. It means a loss of days of work, less money. It's ruining immediate economic situation in Israel. If you can do less days in reserve,
be better for the country.
Right.
Well, we leave a blessing. Maybe we can, hopefully there'll be peace in the Middle East. Of course, we always hope for the Mashiach to finally bring real peace in the world. But in the meantime, we can try our hand at peace. And thank you very much for the retired Lieutenant Colonel Haim Ben-Eliezer. Success in America. And thank you for being on the Jewish View.
Thank you.